this week saw some huge progress in the world of AI video. We got even more video examples from Sora and what it's capable of, including some that Marquez Brownlee got to prompt himself, like this video of a dog walking in a parking lot, and a 3D printer making something here, and a product reviewer surrounded by gadgets. And of course, Sora is still managing to blow people's minds, but for the most part, people just want to get their hands on it.
Hey guys, it's Matt. One of the ways this channel will evolve over time is like a navigating reality with Matt type thing. Not particularly examining just the AI amongst hundreds of other things. I've made predictions in the past, but make more predictions. Where is society and culture going? And of course, your comments are very influential to me as we navigate reality, try to stay ahead of the curve, because we see the intentions of what we call not milk. Our friends, family, the people around us just think government's trying the best that it can, but it's bogged down, Matt, you see, with red tape, and politicians sometimes lose their way. They don't see the dark element here that unfortunately is here, and because we see it, I think we can stay ahead of the curve more than most. Now, a few things I want to mention that I wanted to say for weeks. I keep forgetting. I have to get this out before we jump into this. More breaking AI news from Matt Wolfe. It is truly amazing. I'll show more segments of the video like I just did. A few quick things first, guys, and then I'll show you some more of this Matt Wolfe video and continue along predicting what's coming with the AI. Somebody approached me not long ago and said, Matt, I watched an old video of yours and it had commercials and ads. What's that all about? Number one, I've never, ever run an ad. I've never taken a penny from YouTube, Google, in now approaching almost 15 years. If they determine that I've used copyrighted material, sometimes you get material and you don't know, or you believe it's okay. If it's copyrighted material, even though it might say allowed to be used on YouTube, even this Matt Wolfe video, he might allow others like me to use segments. Google knows where I'm taking it and may run ads. They don't send me any money. They're doing it, giving it to the copyright holder and taking a piece themselves. So if you see commercials, it's not me. It's never been me. Number two, and last point before we begin, and this is related to my channel and this AI. If you ever hear me, say something ridiculous, offensive, do something, guys, the trolls will get a hold of this technology. Anything at this point can be deep faked. Vocal recognition, they can make me say something that certainly didn't come from me. If you hear Matt say something crazy, offensive, whatever it may be, guess what? It's not going to be me. It will be one of these AI tools. I will remind you of this once a month to stay ahead of it. At some point, the trolls will crawl out of their little holes from behind their rocks, and they will use these AI tools to start a whole new round of trolling against Matt. Oh, I'm sure it's coming. We'll be prepared for it.
Pika Labs also got an update to their video generation model this week, allowing us to add lip syncing to our videos. You can either do a text-to-speech model, type in what you want your character to say, or upload your own audio file, and it will speak out what came from the audio file.
Wait, hold up. These things can talk?
For real?
Runway also got some minor updates to their platform. We've got a new UI here in Gen 2. And if we click on the motion brush here to sort of get more control over how we want to animate this image, there's this new auto detect area. So we can actually let the AI detect what areas we want to affect in the video.
The magenta auto the magenta auto detect feature, guys. The magenta is not off the charts, but it does pop up more prevalently when discussing the AI. That magenta is some sort of a symptom associated with the next phase of reality, moving the human towards the digital world. It's not ridiculously all over the place as I try to learn about what's coming regarding this AI landscape, but it does come up more than it should. I'm not going to say too much about the magenta here because it's actually a question, or in the questions and answers section I'm putting before the half page to close out the book. But the magenta is a symptom or a representation of their ultimate goal, at least for real spiritual beings in this time period, to move them into a digital environment. One, I believe all these AI tools, and you'll see how this is coming together as Matt Wolfe presents all the AI news from all these different companies working seemingly on their own, but of course together to create digital worlds where we've talked about recently the real human will one day step into a digital environment and not know they've stepped into it. And remember last time I said that, I said, I hear you yelling at me that we've already done that many times. Maybe we have, but at least now we're aware of the possibility, and at least a few of us can avoid what's coming. Obviously, even if we've done it many times, they have a next phase of it. That next phase is represented by the magenta. They don't ever stop. The Not Milk and its minions are the Terminator. 30 seconds before I start the video again, this is the segment I'll play next. Matt Wolfe says something like, we got this week out of the Alibaba group. In whatever I show you, notice all the different company names mentioned. An Alibaba group could be a huge company. Microsoft's mentioned, and Google, of course. But he also mentions, like, over months, like hundreds of little companies you've never heard of. And of course, they're kind of giving it all away for free. It exposes the artificial nature of what's happening. Well, where did the little company get the funding? If they are a little company and they're working on getting their AI tool noticed by one of the giants like Microsoft, well, how do they make their money back if it's all given away for free? Who's funding these hundreds of little companies that are having little add-on tools to the other platforms? It's so not milk artificial. Of course, I don't know what my friend Tony and others would say about this. Like, there's hundreds of companies spending collectively billions of dollars and then giving it away for free. And that just makes sense to people.
We got this research out of Alibaba Group, another thing that we don't have access to but looks really cool and I'm itching to get my hands on, called Emo. You can upload an audio file and it will match the lips to the audio. It actually understands the emotions behind the audio as well and causes the facial expressions of the face to move a little more closely with the emotion that comes with the audio. Here's an example of Mira Murati from OpenAI speaking, and this image actually using those same vocals. So check this out.
And maybe we have several of them, and maybe they all have different competences.
Matt, in terms of what you said earlier, that they're going to take your image, they're going to take your voice, they're going to make you say something stupid using AI tools, like you play with yourself 25 times a day with Jello pudding pops or whatever. Matt, first of all, Matt, nobody cares about you, so it's not going to happen. Look at this, Matt. We can tell it's AI. You don't have nothing to worry. Okay, wait a second. Yeah, you can tell there's something a little off about this. I'm going to show you another example next. They have completely photorealistic, indistinguishable from reality AI tools for deepfakes as of right now. And they're just going to get better as the weeks go by. This is another one he shows. She ain't real. She certainly looks real. And if anybody's still saying, well, Matt, I can still tell, maybe you still can. That's great. But it's exponentially week to week bettering itself. What will this look like, not in 2028, but what will it look like by the end of April? That's what I'm saying. And it's here now. Some of the tools are a little behind some of the other tools. So it's here, okay? If Matt, I don't even want to, who knows what they're going to have me say. I hope we can laugh at it.
If you're not familiar with Lightricks, they're the company behind really cool tools like Motion Leap, Video Leap, and Photo Leap. Well, now they've got LTX Studio, a platform that lets us generate full videos with AI. I'm talking about you give it a single prompt and it generates multiple scenes with multiple shots within that scene, consistent characters, controllable lighting, music, sound effects, everything that goes into creating a video, you can generate with one prompt. And once you have all of your scenes and all of your shots, you can edit any piece you want on a shot-by-shot basis. What we're able to do these days is pretty dang mind-blowing, and LTX Studio is making it easy. And jumping back to the topic of Sora for just a second here, this was an interesting news story where Tyler Perry saw Sora and then decided to cancel the creation of an $800 million movie studio that he was working on. So he was ready to invest almost $1 billion into expanding his studio, saw what Sora was capable of, and went, I don't know if this is still the future of the film industry.
Okay, this story ushers in the heart of the matter, the most important things we need to talk about. First off, do I believe this story is legitimate? Of course I don't. Of most everything above a certain level is part of a not milk script to me, even if the players aren't aware they're involved in a script. We'll talk about that later. But whatever Medea here or Tyler Perry knows, it doesn't matter. It's all a script. Don't buy it for a second. It's part of a general AI presentation about AI replacing jobs. They're not going to be quiet about AI replacing jobs in entire industries. They're going to be very vocal about it. And the whole story presented with the magenta, slightly purple, but magenta backdrop, of course. In terms of this guy raising $1 billion with other investors, though, it is very possible. That's not bullcrap if this story was real, which I don't buy it. But this guy makes like $40 to $50 million a pop just throwing a dress on, playing that. Let's have a little fun with this guy first. Remember, we talked for years about how every actor is to be humiliated in one of three ways. Remember the three ways? Well, having a male actor wear a dress is one. Having a male actor play, let's just say, a role of a certain lifestyle, or to play, say, like a Rain Man or a Forrest Gump. Mom always said, like a dumb, what? I don't know what I can say here. One of those three roles. Well, all this guy does is wear a dress. He probably chooses to wear the Medea dress when he gets up in the morning, walk around his own house. So, okay, this is another, we'll add you, Tyler Perry. How the heck do we forget about you? We'll add you to the endless list of male actors that had to appear in a dress or in drag or one of the three great humiliations for the male actor. Do we have a female counterpart or equivalent? We have to think about that. I'm not sure that exists. We'll definitely think about that. But this is all a script. It's real, yet a script at the same time. The AI will intentionally decimate many, many industries. Every other industry will take a huge hit in the next 10 years or so, and they'll be very vocal about it. If they want the AI and the human to step into the digital world, they're not going to be quiet about it. Oh, just keep this AI quiet until... No, it's the opposite. They want the AI to decimate. This is a perfect example. I don't buy this story, of course. Like I've said now 10 times, I'll stop saying it. In my opinion, here's the mentality they want in the masses regarding the AI. If you can't beat them, join them. In other words, they'll bring on too much doom and gloom stories, too much industry decimation, or stories like this where there really isn't any industry decimation yet because he didn't build the thing. But that's the story. Oh, AI is wrecking this and wrecking that. Well, it's all on paper. Nothing was wrecked because he didn't build it. But plans are canceled, and they want people to think, oh, this thing is so now permanent, a permanent fixture throughout all industries and components of society and culture, that if I can't, so they want somebody to think, if I can't beat them, I better join them. Whatever the AI says I need to be doing, or whatever industry is AI friendly, I better get on board with it. And that's ultimately what they want. They don't care one bit about industries or corporations or culture. They care about the human soul and spirit, and decimating that.
Also saw some research come out of Google DeepMind called Genie, which is an AI that can generate sort of platformer games. Here's some of the examples on the page where you can see these little sort of NES era looking platformer games. And these were all created by giving the AI a bunch of video footage of people playing through games.
It can make movies now with just a few prompts, maybe not more than a few minutes, but that will change monthly. Now it can make games. You just show it a game that, I don't know, maybe Electronic Arts, EA, put $500 million into a game development. At some point in a year or two, he would say, look at this game, AI or OpenAI or ChatGPT or whatever, and produce a game like it, but I want to be a superhero that can do this or with this ability, or it'll produce games. So what does that mean for the gaming companies? I mean, Hollywood is already being set up to fail. About a year after The Force Awakens came out, the first Disney production to try to keep the Star Wars franchise moving along was 2015. Right around 2016, I told you guys there's no possible way they put their best effort into this. This is being made bad on purpose for some reason. Now, I said it over and over. We didn't know why. Now it's all starting to come together. Had no idea what was coming in the way of AI when I was saying these movies. And I was the first to say it. I've been saying it consistently since 2016. These are being made bad on purpose. Now we know why. I ended that segment, but I'm going to go back. Not everybody's old guard. Not everybody catches every video. Not everybody remembers my big video a few weeks back saying why movies are being made bad on purpose. So let me reiterate. This is too important. Just a few minutes here. The AI, of course, is being set up to save the day. It will decimate industries here or there. It will put tens of millions out of work. It's a whole they will structure a depression of some kind or introduce a new currency at some point, all by design, all part of the script. And whenever things get bad in any area, the AI will be set up to save the day. At some point, there will be an AI movie, in coordination or conjunction with a big studio, that is truly incredible. And people will say, thank you for the AI, for my movies are back, even though Dune 2 is very good, they say. We'll talk about that maybe in a moment, and why that's breaking the mold, why that's good amongst stinkers. But the AI is being set up to save the day. It just is so artificial. You can see how artificial everything is, or you wouldn't be here. It's not just movies, TV shows, music, everything across the board, all form of art has just been destroyed in this quote. To me, an old man. What toppings you got, old man? New century. Are you going to say new century, Matt? If you live into the 2040s, I'm going to say new century. If I live to 2070, I'll say that in the new century. Whatever. I'm still saying the new century. It's just, it seems like a few years, not almost 25 or a quarter into the quote new century. But the AI will decimate. But ultimately, then, the AI will be set up to save the day, like Mighty Mouse. Even in certain industry groups could get decimated, but there'll be a whole new income provided by AI, or AI is allowing us to have stay-at-home living wage, and now we can eat again and we can relax again. The AI across the board, there will be a script, guys, of major problems. I don't exactly know how it's going to play out at this time. But ultimately, the AI will save the day, even via the collapsing financial system. It will save the day. And then people will be so thrilled with it, they will be more willing then to step in to the digital environment. This assumes they'll actively be making a choice to step into the digital environment. We've been toying with the idea that people might not even be aware of when they wake up into the digital. Matt, did you just glitch? And is this version of Matt going forward the digital environment? Maybe. I don't think so.
That's a great start. What a time to be alive. And since we've been talking about multimedia so far in this video, let's talk about Adobe and how they just revealed a new generative AI tool for music. During the Hot Pod Summit in Brooklyn, Adobe unveiled Project Music Gen AI Control, a platform that can generate audio from text descriptions, like happy dance or sad jazz. Here's a little sneak peek of what it can do.
I can take an input melody that sounds like this, and then you can generate the accompaniment, in this case some film music.
You prompt the generative AI music program like saying Siri, or some people I've heard say hello Google, or okay Google, or something stupid like that. I've tried to say shit in my flip phone, never talks back, just a little box of plastic. I just say hello flip phone, nothing ever comes back from my phone. But generative AI music program, yes. Can I help you? Take Beethoven's Fifth and ruin it. Well, that's already been, actually a bad example. It's already been ruined on the Saturday Night Fever album. Take the Clair de Lune Debussy and ruin it. Take the classics from Ravel and ruin them by adding your AI horse shit.
Oh yeah, no, that was intense.
The article here says that Project Music Gen AI Control may be made publicly available at some future date, but for now, it's firmly in the research stage.
May be made publicly available, but now is in the research stage. Well, after the research stage, just as usual, Adobe will put in the $50 million of funding and development and pay all their expensive workers. Then they'll just give it away. Yeah, that makes perfect sense to the people around us. Still don't know what my friend Tony would say about this, but we're just one of those people. We are saying that there's a sinister intent of some kind. That's crazier than all these companies spending collectively hundreds of billions of dollars and then just giving it all away. Oh, I just spent all this money, but you go take it. You go play with it. Oh, and Midjourney's $14. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, $15 a month. Just to make it look good. $15 a month for AI art generation, where there was only 10 artists in the world that could pretty much produce the same thing by hand, and $15 a month. That's like Sally Struthers for Save the Children. That's only 30 cents a day. Come on. They're all getting rich on the $15 a month, or some of them have a token little amount. But come on, man. It's basically free.
Which is a huge improvement over the previous version of Ideogram. It's so much better at realism. It's so much better at adding text to your images. I got a little bit early access. I've been playing with this one for a couple weeks now.
Ideogram should be called Idiotgram. And I hear you. That's the play on words they're looking for. They're sending a message to the people that use it. That's what, okay. But here's just a great example, guys. There's one of these hundreds of companies you've never heard the name before. If anything were real, there's no way any of these companies would exist. And I can walk you through a simple explanation that any first grader should be able to understand, yet my friend Tony won't understand it, or your friends and family won't understand it. So there's all these companies that you know, if you look into it, I'm sure there's some entrepreneur somewhere that started it. You'll find names, and they did this and that, and they invested all their money to start Ideogram or Idiotgram, or there's some entrepreneur somewhere, right? Isn't that the way it has to work? I know it doesn't work this way. I'm just saying the way it has to work according to your friends and family. So they're sitting at a table, and this person made a little bit of money working at Microsoft, and they're going to put their money together, and they raised $1.8 million for startup with a $500,000 bank loan, and they're going to start Ideogram. And somebody at the table would say, well, you know what? I'm getting wind that the biggies are kind of doing the same thing we're doing. Google and Microsoft, and there's a company called OpenAI, and see, if one of these big guys comes forth with what we're trying to do, we're ruined. And it looks like there's a good chance like Google is doing their images right now through Gemini. They would say at the table, there's a good chance that the multi-trillion-dollar collective in terms of the big names is going to do what we're about to do. Therefore, there's no way we can take this risk. See, it would never happen. Somebody's obviously coming to these companies. Do I think the guy at Idiotgram knows about not milk? No, they don't understand. Somebody comes in and says, you know, oh, okay, we'll be your angel investor. This has to be the way it works. But, you know, then again, this reality is rather hard to figure out in terms of things making sense, but let's just play this out. An angel investor comes in, and the entrepreneurs that start Idiotgram, I'm not even getting it right, Ideogram, say, well, we're going to put up $600,000-$700,000 of our own money. I don't think we can do this now because Google could come out any day and just put us out of business with their own version. It does. You know what? You're protected. Somebody said this. Some AI voice, Stephen Hawking voice box said you're protected. You just do as much research as you can, and you're protected. If you're not adopted or whatever, you'll be made whole. There's no risk. There couldn't be a risk, or the little investors would never get involved in this, knowing the big guys are working on the exact same thing. See, well, Matt, again, this is a second-rate or second-tier company in terms of image generation or, quote, AI art. What do they? The Not Milk will throw money, in my opinion, anywhere, all over the place, for just the chance that one company out of the hundreds it invests in comes forth with something it can use. It's never short on money. It's the same principle I've talked about before, where during the dot-com boom of 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000, all these big companies threw money everywhere. Intel threw money at 100 startups. 3Com was a huge company. It threw money at 100 startups. One of the little startups was called Palm. And Palm Pilot became bigger than 3Com. See, if one thing works, then they don't care about wasting the other 100 billion. If you watch, 10 Matt Wolfe videos at random over 2 months, you're going to hear 50, 60, 70 companies mentioned you've never even heard of before. And I'm saying there can't possibly be any risk for when these, quote, startups entered the AI arena, or they never would have entered. They never would have entered knowing Microsoft, again, one last time, if anything in this world were real, it's real capitalism. You do all this stuff knowing Google's working on the same thing you're working on. And when Google comes in, first of all, you think they would do better with their hundreds of billions behind it and their lead of, as soon as Google comes out with what you're working on, you're all homeless. Nobody would ever start.
Generation. If you remember last week, I showed you that Google ran into some issues where people would ask for like historical images and it would get like the race wrong of the image. Well, Google came out and apologized. They said Gemini image generation got it wrong.
They came out and said, Google Gemini image generator got it wrong. We'll do better, end quote. Senator, you got to do better. We will do. That's like Hitler 5 weeks after Poland and Czechoslovakia saying, oh, that was a mistake. Oh, I'll do better. No, don't send those ships back to New York and Boston Harbor. There's no reason to come to Normandy. You have my word. I'll do better. I'm not joking. very quickly, for the few people that haven't heard about this story, Google's Gemini image generator program, they all have one, and they all came to the market at about the same time. That makes sense. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. It created woke it created woke images across the board. Of course, it's all intentional. It's a fake story. Of course it is. Every bit of the story. I mean, I said when it first came out, I said it was cake in a lake. Now it's confirmed a million times over. It's cake in a lake. Well, Matt, it was pretty obvious cake in a lake when it first came out. That's no big reveal. You're right. I hear you. But for example, it says, Google Gemini image generator, show me Benjamin Franklin. And this is basically, there you go. There's the images. Benjamin, it can't even get the gender right. Well, there is no gender anymore. Show me, it put in we'll say a quote diverse group wherever something should. Well, Hamilton didn't give a shit about keeping the race of the founding fathers, right? Why should the Google image generator? And Lin-Manuel Miranda's beloved, so maybe Google image generator Gemini just wanted to emulate Lin-Manuel Miranda. That fraud. Okay, obviously it's all a script, all by design. It's so obvious to us. Matt Wolfe doesn't see it. My friend Tony doesn't see it. I say the same thing, but it's so frustrating. I mean, guys, let's just say the old guard. You don't even need to be the old guard to see how fake this news story is from top to bottom. Google was caught off guard. Are you kidding me? There isn't a chance in hell Google was caught off guard.
Acknowledge the mistake and temporarily paused image generation of people in Gemini while we work on an improved version. So they realize that when you're asking for historical figures, they should be the actual ethnicity of the historical figure that you asked for.
Now, this story about woke images from Google's new Gemini image generation program is so obvious to us. It's such an easy see-through. We almost have to pause and say, is there some sort of reverse psychology going on here? It's just too obvious. But I don't think that's the case. I just don't think they care about us anymore. They know we're going to see right through it. It's for the masses. My friend Tony would never believe this is all on purpose. But again, if you're not familiar with the story, these are the types of images that it was producing by mistake. Sure. It couldn't just show it's woke gone wild. They had girls gone wild. This is woke gone wild, but all intentional. It's trying to piss you off. It's trying to go viral. It's trying to get people's attention. So they couldn't show a German officer. They couldn't show a white man in a uniform. They had to show a Chinese woman working for Klink, Colonel Klink, and Schultz, and General Burkhardt, and Adolf Hitler. They couldn't show a white man. They can't show a white pope. They have to show a Hindu or an Indian woman as pope. I understand there might be a few Catholics in India. That's not the point. Where that little place where the Tiber River flows, that doesn't have a long history of Indian women as pope, now does it? And then, of course, the famous scene with the signing of the Declaration of Independence. It's woke gone wild, but on purpose, of course. See, this is where it's so obvious now what the presentation is. Here's the person on the street's interpretation and the interpretation that the Not Nelk wants the masses to take. That, similar to what my friend Tony has said many times, Matt, don't you know Hollywood is infiltrated with communists and socialists, and it's just the infiltration of liberalism and woke and ridiculous push of diversity and communism and collectivism is so out of control. That's what they want everyone to believe. So out of control that now the wokeness and social justice warrior stuff is starting to show up so much it's becoming embarrassing. That's what they want people to believe. That's the story at the first level is what they want. They want people on the street to think that this communist influence or this liberalism to the extreme is trying to do as much of this as they can, but quietly to get away with it. And now they've done so much, it's showing up with like Dylan, the Bud Light spokesperson. They're so out of control, Matt. They're starting to embarrass themselves. No, it's obviously meant to piss people off. It's meant to get your attention. It's meant so the masses believe that this element inside liberalism has taken over governments and Hollywood. They want people to believe that this is a problem. Now, getting to the bottom of that is rather difficult. I'm not sure we're going to want to continue with that here. This is about AI. I mean, I could sit here for 20 minutes and put together a presentation. This is about AI, so let's move on. But at least for right now, we're at the second level. It's not like they're trying to get away with a ridiculous push of diversity and woke and social justice warrior, and then it's now so over the top. Now they're being exposed because they've gone too far. They're going too far on purpose to get people to believe that this is their intention when it's not their intention, if that made any sense. We'll talk about it some other time. Actually, no, it's too important in terms of what's happening in this world. I have to insert this, have to talk about it for a few minutes now. We'll talk about it more later. In a very basic sense, they want to create as much racism as possible. They want to create as much of it as possible. They want to create as much camps and not liking somebody that's different from you. And look what they've done with the genders in the last 5 to 10 years. The more you push women's issues, the more, if, as I've said, I don't know how much of this I can talk about, the more, if you're just a regular old guy at home, you roll your eyes and go, remember I presented the chapter on free voice that couldn't be discussed? You roll your eyes and say, not this shit again. You start to hate the cause, and then you start to hate the group associated with the cause. They try to create as many camps as possible and hatred amongst groups, all under the guise of pushing diversity so much because the person on the street, and probably my friend Tony, believes that they want to eliminate racism so much, they want it to go away so much that they've gone overboard in their No, they've gone overboard because they want to create as much of it as possible. This is obvious to a tiny little group of us, and it's frustrating to get out of bed in the morning with so many blind people we have to interact with.
Since 2017, we've been hearing that Apple was building the Apple car. Rumor had it that it was going to be a competitor to like a Tesla. However, this week, Apple finally announced that project is dead. They're moving on past the Apple car. They're not going to continue to work on it.
They're not going to continue to work on that pinkish magenta piece of shit. Guys, for anybody new, let me explain how this reality works in terms of corporations and the system and governments and things like that. The highest degree of socialism is already here. In other words, the people around us would believe that it was an independent business decision. Apple, acting on its own, decided to not move forward with the Apple car because they considered their own profitability 5 and 10 years out and found the project unviable. Absolute horseshit. This is a collective system that works together. There is no capitalist structure the way we were taught in school. There's socialism to a degree because there are other words, but we don't, other than not milk, we don't have the exact right word. I mean, whatever Tesla's doing, they are all coordinating together. This is more obvious than ever, considering how it's perfect coordination amongst every company to push the AI forward. We've talked about this movie, A Beautiful Mind, with Russell Crowe. We talked about it many times because it just came out and showed you. Talk about a truth drop. It showed you that collectivism and all the corporations working together has been here for a very long, long time. And whatever this John Nash came up with at Princeton helped what was already a collective cronyism and groups working together under the false guise of capitalism. Capitalism exists at the mom and pop level. It doesn't exist, in my opinion, at the top level, and it hasn't for a long, long time. A Beautiful Mind, what did he say? It's a famous scene. It's a great movie. It just showed you that it's a collective. There's no capitalism at the top. There's no Apple deciding on its own to not go forward with the Apple car. And the investors of Tesla are like, oh, I'm glad Apple didn't move forward. We would have been in trouble when they're at the exact same table together. John Nash, when he leans into his friends, and he said, Adam Smith was wrong. What does Adam Smith say? They're going to go for the girls in the bar. Oh, every man for himself. Adam Smith said, well, Adam Smith was wrong. What's best is if we do what's best for ourselves and also what's best for the group. That's what they've been doing for a very long time. They showed it to you, every bit of it, in A Beautiful Mind. Remember the original Chat GPT logo. They've changed it a bit, it seems, but it's still associated with the emerald green and the magenta. To me, it's the magenta invading eventually overriding the emerald green. There's a lot. We could do a whole video just on this. It also looks a little bit like the old flag, doesn't it? But we'll talk about this some other time. Guys, how unnatural this is that they're all succeeding in this AI space with breakthroughs over here, and then this one goes ahead, and then Google's catching up, and then Microsoft goes ahead, and it's so unnatural, it's impossible. It gives the whole collectivism away. If anything were real, you'd have one or two or three companies, and maybe Microsoft would get on board late and say, let me invest billions, and they would come on. And then basically almost everybody else would be put out of business. You'd have 2-3 companies with proprietary breakthroughs in this AI technology. You wouldn't have everybody making these leaps kind of at the same time. It's so unnatural. We've talked about it recently with Intel going back and forth with the AMD chips. AMD's doing better these 2 years, then now Intel's doing better. Let me just give you an example that makes a little bit of sense. What's the first car in the U.S., at least, or North America? It's debatable for the world, but they say in the North America, of course, Ford and then the Model T. But the Ford Motor Company, I just looked it up, established in 1903. Now, it took until 1908 for General Motors to be established, or at least to incorporate. That's 5 years. And they could have, hear me out. Chrysler, I think, in the early 1920s. So 5 years to have competition, when all they needed to do was go buy a Model T or a Ford and just break it down, pull the parts apart, and say that they could reverse engineer it in a few hours and basically see how it works. How would the AI, if there should be a few companies that have breakthroughs, and then you wouldn't have other companies catching up weeks later. It would take forever. Nobody would ever catch up. How do you reverse engineer it unless it's all not milk, and of course it's all coordinated. I don't think that came out great. I'm not going to re-record it, but the collusion is proven with the way every companies, and even the little companies, still all exist, and they're all helping out with their little breakthroughs too. They'd all be put out of business. Ridiculous. It took 5 years for General Motors to copy Ford. I mean, really, it should have taken them a few months. You just reverse engineer basic parts. It took them 5 years. You can't reverse engineer an AI or a chat GPT and see how it works in the background. Should be 3 companies dominating everything, all because they invested in each other. Everybody else at this point in the AI space should be out of business. Again, reality revealed, we're the only idiots that can see it.
How is that relevant to AI? According to Bloomberg, most of the team's workers that were working on that car are moving over to generative AI initiatives. Further confirmed that by saying that Apple will break new ground in generative AI this year. Apple had their annual shareholder meeting this week, and during the company's Q1 earnings call, Cook said Apple was working internally with Gen AI, but it was taking a slower, more deliberate approach to customer-facing incarnations of the technology.
So the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, all the people that are working on the Apple car, they're going to go over and work on generative AI. So even Apple is up to speed. No big company is being left behind. No big company is being put out of business. No child left behind. Oh, but we're just one of those people. Matt, not everything's a conspiracy. Yeah, it is. Pretty much. Yeah, it is. Even, Apple's going to do, they're not, there's so many breakthroughs happening so quickly, 1 or 2 big guys would go under because of this. You know how many are going to go under? Of course, none of them. It's such an artificial system. Matt, are you going to talk about the fake rainbow and the revision of the... Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you're going to put a rainbow behind you, Tim Cook, shouldn't it be Roy G. Biv? Red, orange, the real colors of the rainbow, when you put a hose up in the air and you put your thumb over the end and it sprays and you see the real rainbow, not cyan, not magenta, not off colors. What was that? With the color wheel, like the inverted colors come first, the cyan and the magenta. Of course, that's why this rainbow is behind Tim Cook. These things, they are not the same as us. They can't be, folks. In terms of, Tony called them the sequential incarnation. Melvin P., they can't possibly be the same spiritual entity we are. There's just too much evil, too much shenanigans, endlessly. Who knows what these things are? They go bother somebody else. Adding this back, for those that didn't quite understand what I just said, I don't truly understand it myself, but the colors that are behind Tim Cook right now, in my opinion, this is intentional. This represents the inverted reality, or the digital reality they want to bring, or whatever they want the real human to step into. The cyan, the magenta, whatever these other colors are. They don't like the Roy G. Biv of the rainbow. That doesn't represent the reality they want in the future. I'm saying it's absolutely by design that this is the rainbow behind Tim Crook. It's not an accident. It's not. People would just see this on the street and just say, "Oh, we just a friendly painting on the side of the Apple building," or maybe sometimes we do take it a little too far with the conspiracy or whatever. But usually we don't take it far enough.
We also got the news this week that Microsoft was partnering with Mistral AI, the French AI company that has built some of the best open source AI models we have available today. Mistral AI will have access to Azure's cutting-edge AI infrastructure and cloud computers, while further boosting Microsoft's absolute dominance in the AI space right now. I talked about this one a few weeks ago, but OpenAI is currently in a lawsuit with the New York Times. The New York Times is claiming that OpenAI regurgitated one of its articles verbatim. OpenAI claimed, well, you had to really sort of dial in the prompt and even give it some copied and pasted sentences from that original article to get it to prompt your article verbatim. It says here, the New York Times used deceptive prompts to get ChatGPT to regurgitate its content. So OpenAI is asking the courts to dismiss this case.
Hey, Matt, you cynical bastard. I guess you don't believe in the legitimacy of this news article now either, do you? No, because I don't really believe in the legitimacy of pretty much any news article other than sports and weather. And weather's manipulated and sports is faked. So I guess 0 for the for the news. But no, I don't believe in the legitimacy of this news article either. We should redefine the definition for news. So 1 minute or less, if you don't know about this fake story, say somebody around the world goes on ChatGPT and says, tell me about how Donald Trump's latest trial is going. Then ChatGPT just goes and steals the article, or 90% of it's the same or whatever from the New York Times. New York Times say, that ChatGPT, that AI is stealing my stuff, when it's funny as shit because a bot wrote their stuff. It's a bot stealing from a bot. They make it seem like a real person wrote it. A bot wrote, anyway, it's probably the same bot, Matt. Yeah, it probably is. This is all not milk script as well. So, but now ChatGPT and OpenAI is turning the tides, saying that, New York Times, to replicate how ChatGPT is supposedly stealing from the New York Times, they're prompting it in such a way to have ChatGPT not interpret the news on its own, but to go right to the New York Times article. Oh, come on. There's nothing real about this, but let's just say it was real. What does the New York Times want the outcome to be? Do they just want some money? What would be the, can they prove gigantic damages because a few kids asked let's just say it's real. A few kids in Skokie asked the ChatGPT about a certain bit of news, and that ChatGPT went and got most of it from a New York Times article. So you have to prove damages for a lawsuit, for any sort of civil suit. If they wanted, there's no purpose of this other than the news headline itself. That's what proves how fake it is. They're going to prove damages because a few kids and ChatGPT is using, say, most of a New York Times article. Well, then New York Times would need to prove the people then are canceling their subscriptions to the New York Times online and using ChatGPT instead. The last time I looked, the whole legal system is broken down. There's nothing to rely on anymore. In the old days, at least, and I'm over 50, you actually had to prove damages. The purpose of this charade, of this act in the play, is just to establish legal precedent in favor of the AI. So when, say, real cases come, judges can refer to the case law that's already been laid down in favor of the AI. So those judges, just like Matt Damon said in Papers from the Plymouth Pulpit, 1883, he was citing existing case law, Pages of Plymouth Pulpit or whatever Matt Law said. They're just trying to create a precedent that favors the AI for future, quote, real cases.
This week, the CEO of Klarna claims that he's using AI to do the work of 700 people after he actually laid off 700 people back in 2022. The CEO explained that in the chatbot's first 4 weeks, it had handled about 66 of its customer support, or about 2.3 million chats.
Guys, the amount of fake world evidence just in this one presentation, just in what we've looked at, what Matt Wolfe was looking at, the amount of times we've interpreted something, I'm sure you see it the same way I do, see it different than Matt Wolfe, see it different than my friend Tony. The number of fake world things just in this one video exposes fake world by itself. We didn't need to do anything for the last 15 years. We don't need to do anything else. I mean, again, the amount of conspiracy, the amount of companies working together, and Matt doesn't believe any article is legitimate. This can't happen in a real world. And I'll look at this case. Okay, this just can't keep happening. It's a fake world of some kind. Or, I mean, you get into things like this CEO of Klarna. CEO boasts, well, he's an NPC. He's on a download of some. He's not the same entity as you. Well, that's fake world. What's the difference? I mean, everything it's like different realities. We see it completely different than everyone else does. But after I'm done my presentation, I know you guys generally will go, yeah, I see it the way you do, Matt. You can't keep presenting two different things every single time, every single day. It's like, if there are two separate realities, then generally that's fake world too. So, I mean, here we go again. So the CEO boasts his AI can do the work of 700 people after he just laid off. Like, is there any CEO in a real world, that's going to make that decision, mock those that have just been laid off? These repeating scripts and stories and people putting their foot in their mouth and gaffes, and I don't, are they NPCs? Is the download so strong in some of these people that they just do whatever the not milk wants? No CEO in a normal world is going to boast about his AI. It's so artificial. He specifically mentions the AI can do the work of 700, where he just laid off 700. The article itself, and Matt Wolfe covering, it's meant to get people pissed off. It's meant to create ire and hatred. In this case, it's meant to create hatred against the AI. Well, Matt, I thought they want everybody to love the AI. They do, but this is similar to the movie Action Jacksonation, the creating of camps. I mean, the evil genius we're dealing here is off the charts. They wanted 80% to love Dr. Efton, to go run and line up for the punky boosters. They wanted 85% to go do it. They wanted 15% to see it as sinister. They wanted 15% to see it as causing all sorts of problems and issues and to have all sort of adverse events. They wanted the 15% to hate it. It's always about creating energy and camps. So this group will love the AI. This group will hate the AI. That's part of what they're doing. It's complicated. It's confusing. But at least at the very first level, at least the way we interpret it, it's not a real story. Any real CEO would say, we're sorry we had to lay these people off. Yes, I have to admit, to be honest with you, that the AI is doing some of the work that these people were doing. I have to answer to my investors and my shareholders and the bottom line. They would fall. The CEO knows what to say. They don't need advice from me. They wouldn't be like, well, my AI is doing the work of 700 people. Well, sir, didn't you just lay off 700? Well, yeah. I mean, nobody would do this. But it's not as simple as the first grade truther says, oh, they got a script. The Men in Black came. See, it doesn't work. The Men in Black came in and told him what to say. Matt, I agree with you. This is a news story that's meant to piss people off. But the Men in Black came in their vans, and it doesn't work that way, of course. This sort of thing is gigantic proof that the NPC does exist, because it always does what the not milk wants in waves. Look at 2020 and see the V. In terms of understanding what the NPC is, or if the person down your block is not the same spiritual entity as you, we should just say it doesn't matter whether it's the download or they're literally an NPC completely different than you are. If somebody is a real spiritual being that's on the download, they will do whatever we expect the NPC to do. They will serve the not milk at every turn. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because they're going to support the not milk agenda, and they're going to defend it and make excuses for it. Oh boy, it is, guys, at the end of the day, this is all good news. The AI taking over everything, every bit of this reality as it gets crazier is good news to the real spiritual being that can see through it and understands itself as we do. I don't just say this to make us feel better. It does not, the news for us, at least a small group, does not get any better. All of this reality breakdown is the best news of all time. Not just saying that. Thanks for listening.